Stop scrolling. Seriously, freeze your pathetic little thumb right there. Because if you think your daily dose of internet drama is wild, let me tell you about two ancient meatheads who basically invented toxic masculinity. War crimes. And what happens when your ego is bigger than your entire city? We're talking about the original, undisputed kings of the main character syndrome, Achilles versus Hector. And trust me, it's a story so unbelievably stupid. You'll wonder how humanity ever made it past the Bronze Age without spontaneously combusting from sheer Welcome back to the Midnight Meme Historian, where we rip the gilded robes off dusty history and expose it for the absolute dumpster fire it truly was. Today, we're not just talking about a fight. We're dissecting a 10-year-long, continent-spanning beef that makes your ex's passive-aggressive Instagram posts look like a polite haiku. We re-peeling back the layers of ancient Greek glory to reveal a festering shithole of bad decisions, divine interference, and enough emotional immaturity to fuel 1,000 reality TV shows. If you're here for some fluffy, inspiring tales of heroism, you're in the wrong damn place, friend. This is the Uncensored Roast. And we're about to find out why almost everyone involved in the Trojan War deserved to be cancelled harder than a problematic influencer from 2017. Prepare yourselves! Because this is going to be less of a history lesson and more of an intervention into humanity's chronic inability to just chill out for 5 minutes. So, how does a decade of death, destruction, and questionable fashion choices kick off? With a beauty contest. Of course. Not just any beauty contest, but one judged by a prince who was objectively the least qualified person on the planet to make any sound. Decision. Paris of Troy. He asked basically the ancient world. As the equivalent of that one friend who always picks the wrong crypto to invest in, but with far more catastrophic global consequences. The goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, 3 cosmic Karens, decide to have a celestial catwalk showdown. Each one offers Paris a bribe because, let's be real, even gods are susceptible to a good old-fashioned quid pro quo. Hera offers power, Athena offers wisdom, and Aphrodite, being the ultimate siren, offers the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris, bless his tiny, easily swayed heart, goes for the girl. Because who needs wisdom or power when you can have a hot trophy wife, right? It's a decision so fundamentally stupid, it makes Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter look like a stroke of genius. The problem, and holy shit, really? Is that the most beautiful woman in the world? Helen was already married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. You know, just a small detail. Paris, with the diplomatic finesse of a drunken badger, rolls up to Sparta as a guest, then promptly absconds with the queen. This isn't just a side piece. This is an international incident waiting to explode. It's like a world leader crashing a G7 summit, then eloping with another leader's spouse, all while live streaming it on TikTok for clicks. The audacity of this man-child is truly something to behold. He literally kidnaps a queen, and the entire ancient world just collectively shrugs, thinking, boys will be boys. This is the original, she fell in love with me, your honor defense, but with an entire city about to pay the price. Naturally, Menelaus, being the aggrieved husband and, a king, was not exactly thrilled about his wife being stolen. His brother, Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae, and the ancient world's biggest drama queen, decides this is the perfect excuse to launch a full-scale invasion. Because nothing says I love my brother like mobilizing 1,000 ships and slaughtering an entire civilization over a woman who clearly had a penchant for bad boys. This isn't about Helen. It's about perceived disrespect and, let's face it, a massive power grab. Agamemnon sees an opportunity to flex his muscles, consolidate power, and probably boost his approval ratings among the Greek cities. It's the original, distract them with a foreign war tactic. A classic move that even modern politicians, God bless their unoriginal souls, still rely on like a safety blanket. The whole thing spirals faster than a Twitter mob canceling someone for a 10-year-old joke. So, the Greeks gather their forces, a veritable who's who of ancient world problematic figures. You've got Odysseus, the strategic genius who could out-scheme a Silicon Valley startup founder. but still managed to take 10 years to get home. Then there's Ajax, basically the muscle-bound jock who probably peaked in high school, all brawn and 0 brain cells. And, of course, Achilles, our star player, who, spoiler alert, is less of a hero and more of an entitled, rage-fueled demigod with anger management issues and a really sensitive heel. This entire Greek expeditionary force is less an army and more a dysfunctional family reunion, where everyone secretly hates each other but pretends to be united against a common enemy. It has the ultimate lesson in how to turn a personal slight into a full-blown existential crisis for an entire civilization. The journey itself was a clown show. The winds wouldn't blow, because some god or another was feeling particularly petty that day. So, what's the solution? Human sacrifice. Obviously, Agamemnon, showing the ethical compass of a used car salesman, decides to sacrifice his own daughter, Iphigenia, to appease the divine forces. Now, let's just pause for a moment and appreciate the sheer absurdity of this. You steal a queen! Then sacrifice your own kid to get decent sailing weather. This is a leadership decision so profoundly dumb. It makes the one big beautiful bill act seem like a Nobel Prize-winning policy proposal. And people wonder why the ancients had so many problems. They were literally sacrificing their offspring for a tailwind. This is the kind of logic you'd expect from a toddler negotiating for more screen time. Not the commander-in-chief of 1,000 ships. Meanwhile, over in Troy, they're probably having a nice time until this massive armada shows up, looking like an angry swarm of ancient Greek Ubers, ready to pillage. The Trojans, led by the venerable King Priam, a man whose only real flaw was having a terrible taste in sons, find themselves in a bit of a pickle. Their city, Troy, is well fortified, supposedly impenetrable. It's the ancient world's version of a secure server. But spoiler alert, it had a massive backdoor vulnerability shaped like a wooden horse. And who's their shining star? Hector? Paris' brother? Hector is the only character in this entire saga who seems to possess an ounce of common sense, a dash of decency, and the strategic thinking of someone who actually plays chess, not just blindly moves pieces. He is basically the responsible older brother, trying to keep the family business afloat. While his younger sibling runs around causing international incidents, the Trojan War drags on for 10 agonizing years. 10 years. Imagine the same conflict, but instead of bronze spears, it's Twitter arguments. And instead of siege engines, it's endless. TikTok dances about who's right. The sheer futility of it all is mind-boggling. People are dying. Cities are being ravaged. And all for what? Bragging rights? A stolen wife? It's like a decade-long comment section flame war, but with actual, literal flames and millions of casualties. This whole thing could have been resolved with a decent therapy session or, at the very least, a strongly worded email. But no, these ancient boneheads preferred mass slaughter. This is why historians like me have to drink heavily. The sheer, unadulterated, persistent human stupidity is a constant source of both despair and content. During these 10 years, the Greek camp becomes a hotbed of internal squabbles, backstabbing, and petty grief. It is less an army and more a highly toxic co-working space where everyone is vying for attention. And the ultimate diva, the undisputed queen of the dramatic exit, is none other than Achilles. Our hero decides to throw an epic tantrum because Agamemnon, in a fit of absolute dickishness, stole his war prize. Now, Briseis was a woman, a human being treated as mere chattel, which is a whole other layer of ancient awfulness. But for Achilles, it wasn't about Briseis' dignity. It was about his honor. His fragile, easily bruised, ego-driven honor. This is the original I'm taking my ball and going home moment. Except my ball is the most fearsome warrior in the Greek army. And going home means literally sitting out the entire war while his buddies get slaughtered. Achilles, with the maturity of a child, denied a toy, withdraws from battle. He pouts in his tent, probably doom-scrolling through papyrus scrolls of ancient memes while his comrades are getting their guts rearranged on the plains of Troy. This is the ultimate quiet quitting before the term was even invented. He's basically saying, you guys deal with the existential threat, while I focus on my personal brand and my emotional well-being, which, by the way, is directly tied to who gets to sleep with the enslaved women. It's an act of such staggering self-absorption. It would make a modern influencer's sponsored apology video look heartfelt. The Greek army, already a chaotic mess, starts to crash harder than a crypto market after a tweet from a certain space enthusiast. And this, my dear viewers, is where it gets absolutely fucking insane. The Trojans, emboldened by Achilles' absence, start kicking the Greeks' asses. They're pushing them back, burning their ships, basically turning the tide of a decade-long war. The Greeks, without their star player, are floundering worse than a politician trying to explain their past contradictory statements. Agamemnon, suddenly realizing that maybe alienating your best warrior wasn't the brightest strategy, sends emissaries to beg Achilles to come back. He offers riches, land, even Briseis back untouched. But Achilles, being the stubborn drama queen he is, refuses. Because his pride, you see, is more important than the lives of hundreds of thousands of men, or the entire future of the Greek expedition. This is the kind of petty stubbornness that makes you want to reach back through time and slap him with a smartphone. Then enters Patroclus, Achilles' best friend, soulmate, sidekick, whatever you want to call him. Patroclus, seeing the Greeks getting utterly decimated, comes up with a brilliant, yet incredibly stupid idea. He asks Achilles if he can wear Achilles' armor, lead the Myrmidons, and scare the Trojans into thinking Achilles has returned to battle. Achilles, still too busy, wallowing in his own self-pity, says yes, but with a caveat, don't go too far, bro. Just scare! Don't actually get into the thick of it. This is like telling a teenager with a brand new driver's license, just take the car around the block. Don't go street racing. What do you think is going to happen? It's a classic case of tragic foreshadowing, or, as we call it, at midnight meme historian. A hold my beer moment gone catastrophically wrong. Patroclus, fueled by the adrenaline of battle and the sheer idiocy of youth, does exactly what Achilles told him not to do. He goes full berserker, pushing the Trojans back to the city walls. He's basically on a rampage, single-handedly turning the tide of the entire war again. And then, because the gods are basically ancient Twitter trolls with superpowers, he gets ganged up on. First, Apollo, a god who apparently had nothing better to do, disarms him. Then Euphorbus wounds him. And finally, Hector, the only Trojan with a functioning brain, finishes him off. So, Patroclus dies, effectively. Because Achilles couldn't get over himself and because some celestial beings decided to play a game of let us mess with the mortals. It's like a perfectly planned heist, foiled by a pigeon flying into the laser grid. The sheer cosmic absurdity of it all. The news of Patroclus' death hits Achilles like 1,000 years of bad karma. He goes from being a sulking emo teenager to an unhinged, screaming psychopath in approximately 0.3 seconds. His grief is so immense, so all-consuming, that it makes a celebrity's public breakdown look like a quiet Sunday brunch. He wants revenge, and he wants it bloody. Forget the war prizes. Forget the honor. Forget all the petty squabbles. Now, it's personal. This is the ultimate example of don't mess with my best. The only problem is, his bestie died because Achilles was too busy being a petulant man-child. The irony is thicker than a politician's promises right before an election. Achilles, lacking armor because Patroclus got himself killed wearing it, gets a new, divinely forged set from Hephaestus. Talk about an upgrade! It's like going from a broken-down Ford Focus to a souped-up electric supercar overnight. And with this new armor, Achilles unleashes a torrent of pure, unadulterated rage upon the Trojans. He slaughters them indiscriminately, filling the river Scamander with so many corpses that the river god actually gets angry and tries to drown him. Because even the gods are apparently tired of Achilles' shit. This guy's basically the ancient world's version of a berserker influencer, completely unhinged and taking no prisoners. And speaking of unhinged, let's talk about Hector, the man who, for 10 years, was the only adult in the room, the shining beacon of Trojan hope. He knows Achilles is coming for him, knows his destiny is probably sealed. His parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, are literally begging him from the city walls to come inside to save himself. His wife, Andromache, has already given him the tearful, "Please, don't go. You're all I have" speech. It's the kind of emotionally manipulated plea that would make a reality TV star weep on cue. But Hector, being the honorable fool he is, refuses. Because duty, you see, is more important than, no, I don't know, living. He stands alone before the Sion gates, waiting for Achilles. And for a brief, glorious moment, he considers negotiating, maybe even talking this out like rational human beings. But then Achilles, a literal killing machine, appears, radiating pure, unadulterated menace. Hector, the brave, honorable warrior, does what any sane person would do when faced with a demigod of death. He runs. He runs 3 times around the walls of Troy, with Achilles hot on his heels. This isn't a duel. It's a frantic chase scene. A Benny Hill sketch played out with spears and shields and a very real threat of gruesome death. You gotta ask yourself, what would you do in that situation? Would you stand your ground like a hero from the history books? Or would you bail faster than a social media company after a major data breach? Let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious if any of you would actually be this stupid. Now, you're probably wondering what the actual fuck caused this absurd chase scene. Well, here's where the gods, those celestial busybodies, decide to poke their divine noses in again. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and apparently a huge fan of dramatic irony, appears to Hector in the guise of his brother. She convinces him to stand and fight Achilles, promising to help him. Hector, naive as a freshman on their first day of college, falls for it. He thinks he's got backup. He thinks he's got a fighting chance. But of course, Athena vanishes, leaving Hector completely alone. Realizing he's been played faster than a politician's campaign promise, this is the ultimate betrayal. A deepfake video designed to ruin your day, leading to your immediate, painful demise. Talk about a divine dirty trick. The duel itself is brutal, fast, and utterly one-sided. Achilles, powered by the kind of grief-fueled rage that could power a small city, wastes no time. He plunges his spear into Hector's neck, a tiny, unprotected spot just above the collarbone. And just like that, the greatest defender of Troy, the only genuinely sympathetic character in this whole bloody mess, falls. He dies, begging Achilles to return his body to his parents for a proper burial. A final plea for decency, for honor, for basic human respect. And what does Achilles do? He spits on it. He tells Hector he wishes he could eat his raw flesh. Because, you know, vengeance. It's a moment so devoid of humanity, so utterly savage. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about ancient heroes. This is not a hero. This is a deeply disturbed individual, acting out his trauma on a grand scale. But wait, it gets worse. Achilles, not content with merely killing Hector, decides to desecrate his body. He ties Hector's corpse to his chariot by the ankles and drags it around the walls of Troy, day after day, for 12 days straight. Can you even imagine the stench? The sheer, unadulterated pettiness of this act. It's like a celebrity subtweeting their ex for weeks, but instead of words, it's a mangled corpse. The gods, even they, are appalled by this display of barbarism. Even the ancient world, which had a pretty high tolerance for casual brutality, looked at Achilles dragging the body around and collectively thought, dude, that's a bit much. This is why we can't have nice things, folks. Because every time someone gets a taste of power, they immediately devolve into a spiteful, vindictive monster. Don't you think this behavior has a striking resemblance to some of the unhinged rantings we see from certain former presidents on social media? Treating their defeated opponents like actual garbage? Write in the comments who you think is the best modern comparison for Achilles' postmortem savagery. The Trojans, watching their beloved prince's body being defiled daily, are obviously devastated. King Priam, Hector's father, takes matters into his own hands. In one of the most poignant and, frankly, ballsy moves in the entire war, the old king guided by Hermes, slips into the Greek camp under the cover of night. He goes directly to Achilles' tent, throws himself at the killer's feet, and begs for his son's body back. He appeals to Achilles' humanity, reminding him of his own father, Peleus. It's a scene of raw, heartbreaking vulnerability, a desperate plea for compassion in a world utterly devoid of it. And for a fleeting moment, Achilles, the stone-cold killer, actually feels something. He remembers his own mortality, his own father, and the possibility of his own tragic end. In a rare moment of semi-humanity, Achilles agrees. He returns Hector's body to Priam, and even grants a 12-day truce for the Trojans to properly mourn and bury their fallen hero. Holy shit! Really? A truce from Achilles. It's like a moment of peace breaking out on X, formerly known as Twitter, between warring factions. It's almost enough to make you think there might be a glimmer of hope for humanity. But then, you remember it's Achilles, and he's probably just tired of dragging a corpse around. This brief interlude of peace is a cruel tease, a brief respite before the inevitable, bloody conclusion. The ancient world, it seems, was just as adept at giving you false hope as a politician during election season. But, as we all know, this isn't the end of the Trojan War. Far from it, the city of Troy is still standing, albeit heavily scarred and severely depressed. And the Greeks, despite their internal squabbles and Achilles' brief moment of decency, are still committed to wiping it off the map. This is where Odysseus, the crafty bastard, comes up with the ultimate Trojan War cheat code: the Trojan horse. It's a plan so simple, so absurdly obvious, that it works precisely because everyone involved, especially the Trojans, are fundamentally idiots. Hey, let's build a giant wooden horse, fill it with our best warriors, and leave it outside their city as a gift. What could possibly go wrong? This is the ancient world's version of a Nigerian prince scam, but with a much higher body count. The Trojans, bless their simple, gullible hearts, fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, despite warnings from characters like Lacan, who famously said, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." They wheel that giant wooden horse right into their city. It is like accepting a USB stick found on the street and plugging it into your main server. You just know it's a bad idea, but the temptation of free stuff, or in this case, a massive wooden equine, is just too great. This is a decision so fundamentally dumb, it would make a tech CEO investing in a failing NFT project look like a financial genius. The sheer collective stupidity of an entire city deciding, yeah, a giant horse seems legit, is a testament to how easily people can be swayed by perceived good fortune, even when it's clearly a trap. The night the horse rolls in is when Troy truly falls. The Greek warriors, who had been crammed inside that equine death trap, emerge, open the city gates, and let in the rest of the Greek army. The city is then sacked, burned, and its inhabitants slaughtered without mercy. It's a complete and utter wipeout, a historical cancel culture event before social media existed. Every man, woman, and child of Troy who isn't enslaved is killed. The city, which stood for 10 years against a formidable foe, falls not because of brute strength, but because of one colossal, monumentally stupid decision involving a very large wooden animal. The Trojan horse saga is the ultimate, when you realize your empire is built on trusting strangers with large wooden gifts moment. And what about our hero, Achilles? Did he live happily ever after, enjoying the spoils of war? Of course not. This is ancient Greece, not a Disney movie. He meets his end, famously, by an arrow to his heel. The one vulnerable spot he had, thanks to his mother dipping him in the river Styx when he was a baby. And who shoots him? None other than Paris, the same idiot who started this whole bloody mess by stealing Helen. It's the ultimate poetic justice, or perhaps just cosmic irony. The greatest warrior felled by the ultimate It is like a celebrated CEO getting taken down by an entry-level intern who accidentally deleted the entire company. The sheer absurdity of it all makes you want to laugh and cry at the same time. His death proves that even the biggest egos, even the most invincible figures, have a single, exploitable point of failure. It is like a seemingly unshakable political dynasty crumbling, because of a poorly worded tweet from 2010. So let's recap this entire saga, shall we? You've got Paris, the horny prince, making a bad choice at a beauty pageant. You've got Agamemnon, the power-hungry general, sacrificing his daughter for good sailing weather. You've got Achilles, the ultimate angry boy, throwing a tantrum, leading to his best friend's death. You've got Hector, the only decent guy, sacrificing himself for a city that then falls for the dumbest trick in history. And you've got a literal wooden horse, acting as the ultimate Trojan War plot device. This entire conflict is a testament to human pride, pettiness, and the sheer inability to engage in rational thought. It's a 10-year-long bloodbath, a brutal, soul-crushing tragedy, all stemming from a combination of ego, bad decision-making, and a hefty dose of divine intervention from gods who clearly had nothing better to do than mess with mortals for their own entertainment. This is the kind of ancient history that makes you grateful for modern problems. Like trying to figure out if your smart home device is secretly judging your messy living habits. Because at least our worst mistakes usually don't involve literal wooden horses or sacrificing our kids for a breeze. The entire epic of Achilles versus Hector and the Trojan War as a whole is a masterclass in how not to conduct foreign policy, family relations, or even a simple argument. It's a cautionary tale delivered with the subtlety of a sledgehammer about the dangers of unchecked ego, the seductive power of revenge, and the eternal human capacity for monumental, jaw-dropping stupidity. The truth is, if you had been a Viking warrior, you probably wouldn't have died from battle. You'd have probably died from some ancient bacterial infection caught from, I don't know, a communal trough or a mysteriously unclean beard. But in the world of Achilles and Hector, you'd be lucky to even get a decent burial after getting trampled by a god-tier tantrum or outsmarted by a glorified Ike, A-flat pack. So, who acted smarter in this whole goddamn mess? The Greeks with their sneaky horse, or the Trojans who thought a giant statue was a good housewarming gift? And did Hector really have to die because of Paris's poor choices and Achilles' fragile ego? Share your point of view below, you history buffs, because frankly, it's a never-ending debate about humanity's eternal cycle of dumb. This whole thing, this grand epic, this legendary conflict, it's nothing more than an ancient, over-budgeted reality TV show with a staggering death count. The original celebrity beef that spiraled into mass slaughter. It's the kind of brutal history that we at Midnight Meme Historian absolutely live for, because it reminds us that while technology advances, human stupidity remains a constant, glorious, horrifying force of nature. If you're still watching, you clearly have a strong stomach for historical fails and an even stronger appreciation for unfiltered history. You, my friend, are one of us. So, if you enjoyed this unfiltered, brutal roast of ancient history, and you're hungry for more sarcastic documentary content, hit that subscribe button, smash it. Don't just tap it like some timid TikTok trend follower. Give it the kind of aggressive, unhinged energy Achilles brought to the battlefield. And while you're at it, ring that notification bell, because you definitely do when you want to miss our next deep dive into why Camp Mystic rituals had more tactical foresight than most medieval battles. This is Midnight Meme Historian, reminding you that history is a dark comedy, and we're all just trying to survive the punchline. If you want to dive even deeper into the absurd decisions of ancient rulers, like how Brian Koberger's survival skills would have been more useful than a crown, check out our video on the dumbest Roman emperors right here. And remember, keep those comments coming, because your ancestors were probably just as idiotic as mine. And that's something worth celebrating. Or, at least, mocking relentlessly.